Hello and welcome, guys, to another episode of the Stay Frosty podcast with your host, Norm. Now, today I'm going to be discussing and talking about the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Matrix trilogy, and Schindler's List. Now, you may be wondering, well, that's kind of random. It's a random selection of films you brought up. No books this time. No books. No games. No TV shows. Just films this time, because last week I had a bit of an off week. I didn't play any video games whatsoever, which is kind of unheard of for me. You know, I finished a book. I finished Jim McKee, and it was interesting. It was all right end. Wasn't really the most amazing book in the world, but it was good. It was all right. But this is kind of what I got up to last week. Like during the week last week, I watched Schindler's List during the week. I'd always said to myself, "Oh yeah, I want to watch this film." Right? People recommended it to me. They said it's a great film. It's a really good film. But my goodness, is it brutal? It is absolutely horrific. It's horrible. They've done a very good job of showing the truth, the hard truth about World War II, and the absolute horrors that the Nazis did in World War II. And then at the weekend, I went on a bit of a movie marathon because I realized I haven't got anything going on. So why not? Why not just watch the whole of the Lord of the Rings trilogy back to back? So I did. That was great. And then after that, I was like, wow, I still have some time and I don't really feel like gaming. So I'm just going to watch the Matrix trilogy. And that's what I did. My discussion or conversation on entertainment, really. It's come to that point. It used to be games, books, and TV shows. No, games, films, and TV shows, and then it became games, books, and films and TV shows. Now, you know, I'm just going to speak everything entertainment wise, because why the heck not? Because the only other thing that I would probably have some knowledge about would be techno music, and I don't think I could make a whole podcast about techno music. I mean, I could, but I mean, it would probably be better just to make a radio at that point, because I think you kind of have to hear the music to understand what I'd be talking about anyway. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the next half an hour of the Stay Frosty podcast. We're going to start off with the most horrible one. Let's get the horrible one out of the way, because it's pretty grim. There's a movie called Schindler's List. It's about World War II. It's about a guy called Oskar Schindler in World War II who is a businessman, and he partners with one of the Judenrat. I just don't know how to pronounce it in German, but Judenrat. But I think it means it meant it was some sort of council set up by Jewish leaders or something, and they were dealing with all the Jews in the ghetto, or in one of the Polish ghettos. So he partners with one of the counselors or whatever, one of the people overseeing it. And I think without Oskar Schindler really paying too much attention or caring, because Oskar Schindler is a Nazi as well. He's in the Nazi party. He's not a good guy. But the Jewish guy that he partners with employs loads of Jews so that they don't have to go to the death camp, to the work camps where they would be killed. But it's absolutely the first half an hour, maybe first hour of the film, you're thinking, this is okay. This is not that brutal. And then it gets to a point where you're introduced to Ralph Fiennes' character, which is the leader, the captain Nazi of this death camp. And he's just so evil in every possible way. And there's just so much violence. There's so much horrible, unnecessary violence. They've done such a good job of depicting someone being shot in the head because it's instant in the film. They die instantly. The blood spews forth so quickly. It's like a running tap, and it's just so grim. It's so grim, and it was a 15. This film was a 15. I was thinking, damn, the BBCF really was really easy on this because it's so brutal. It's probably one of the most brutal films I've ever watched. It's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely grim. But I would say it's a good film because it really does open your eyes to what the Nazis did, or at least some of what they've done, or some of what they did, and it's absolutely mortifying. Like I just can't believe. Still, after watching that, I still can't believe that that actually happened, and the the Nazis did do things like that that were in the film. Like it was just so you could never forgive something like that. It's just so wrong in every corner of the world. I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically it's just one of the worst things you could ever imagine. And probably things like that do happen under the radar and we don't know about it. And that's worse, but also the fact that sometimes these things would happen. Like imagine you were, I don't know, just a German civilian and you probably hear rumors that these things happen, but what can you actually do? You must feel so powerless in that situation. I guess the real problem here in World War Two is how did it ever get so out of control that the Nazi Party were in control? Like something must have gone terribly wrong with the politics or something because there's no you'd hope, you'd really hope no way that that could happen again or something similar. But like I mean, like with like Western politics, at least, with the what I'd imagine would be the good folk. But I don't know, it's just such a grey area that you can't really say that there's good or bad folk, as I've very well learned from the past year or so. It's all a bit of a minefield, and it's quite it's just it's not fair. It's not fair. But that's life. Life isn't fair. You can only do what you must. You can only do what you can, and I guess yeah. And you might not even know what's going on. To be honest, there's so much confusion. They convey so much confusion in the film, and I bet that was a big part of it. That most people were probably just really confused as to what the heck actually is going on right now, and before they knew it, it's too late. Like just millions of people were just murdered, and that's what they really the filmmakers really did a good job of, is just portraying how the Nazis they were so inhuman that they couldn't look past the fact that this person was a Jew. They couldn't really, they didn't care that it was a person. It was the fact that they were a Jew, and they were just blinded by this hatred that maybe it was like indoctrinated into them. Maybe that's how the Nazis worked. Like it was just blind hate, and it didn't make any sense, but they still followed the way of being a Nazi, and it was just like, ugh, it's horrible because they just couldn't see any of them as human. They were like, oh, this is a Jew, I must be as cruel as possible to this person. Like basically, they don't mean anything to me. I'm so above them, and it's just so wrong. It's so wrong, and it's. I'm not even painting the picture fully, but that film is so brutal. It's so brutal because I've seen like brutal like Game of Thrones, right? It's quite brutal, but it's also made up. Like it's also just fictional. So you might be like, I can't believe that just happened, but at the same time, you're thinking, well, it's just a story. But with Schindler's List, it's a true story. I mean, obviously not everything in the film happened, but it probably could have happened, and it probably did happen without anyone knowing. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a point where Rafe Fiennes' character, I can't remember his name, but basically he's got a sniper rifle, and he's in his home, and he's just picking off Jews in the camp as they just walk around. It's so disgusting, and it's so like, oh, it's so nasty. And then and to top it off, it probably did happen. These type of things, and it's just so messed up, so messed up. So really, we do our reviews out of 5, and I'm sorry to start with such a bleak intro because normally these podcasts are fun and games, but for some weird reason I was compelled to watch this film, and it just, there were many times where I took pauses during the film. I paused it. I was like, I think I've seen enough. I don't think I need to watch anymore. But then part of me was like, nah, you need to finish the film. You need to go through it all. So it was like, when you were like in primary school and it was like sex education. I don't know if they still show this one video, but they showed us all this video at the time. And the teacher said, now only the mature children will be able to watch without looking, without height. Like, only the mature children will be able to sit through it all. Basically, that's what they literally said that. So, the video was so savage. It was just a video of this woman giving birth, and it was just so. But I was just like, oh my goodness, this is so uncomfortable. But they told me only the mature ones will make it through to the end. So I was like, I'm mature. I'll watch it all. And it hasn't scarred me that much. But basically that type of mentality was in my head when I was watching Schindler's List many a time. I paused it maybe 4 or 5 times, telling myself, that's enough. I've seen enough. But no, I powered through to the end, and it was worth it because Schindler did do a good thing, a really, really good thing. And without seeing the film, I would never be able to appreciate that. And if someone had mentioned Schindler to me before me watching this film, it wouldn't have meant anything to me. I would have been like, okay, great. Like, there wouldn't been any. I wouldn't have really known anything about him, and I wouldn't have cared. Like, it just wouldn't have crossed my radar as being, this guy is just so great, and he does such a great thing. But it's not like, it's weird though. Like, he gets loads of praise, and he got like this acknowledgement or something. He got like he's like a great person. But I think of the 2 people that like deserved it more was his Jewish counterpart. Because Schindler, for the majority of the film, probably would have employed anyone. I think he probably would have employed anyone to work in his workhouse. I don't think it was his idea to employ the Jews, but there he has it. He's got them, and it does, like, partway through he does start to kind of work for the Jews. He's like really giving it his all to employ Jews and save Jews. It does click. But at the same time, like, it wasn't his idea. Like, he wasn't, I'm pretty sure he's not the one that was saying, yeah, go employ loads of Jews. He just wanted people near the ghetto because it would give him a good deal on goods. So really, like, I feel like the Jewish chap probably should have got a pretty good recommendation, or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know what happened. Maybe they just felt like giving it to the Nazi, even though he's kind of good, but at the same time kind of bad. But I guess that's what I was talking about earlier with the grey zone, with the grey area in war. There's a grey area in many parts of life, and I think that's all part of growing up. You see sometimes hard decisions have to be made, and it's not always clear cut as to what is right. And you might think what is right is wrong in someone else's eyes, and you might even be the minority thinking this is right, but there might be a good reason why it's wrong, and then you're stuck in that grey zone where you're stuck in that grey area where no one really knows what is the right path. No one knows what the right decision is. Now, we are partway through the Stay Frosty podcast. We're about halfway through. And as per usual, I've noticed on the analytics of YouTube and some of Spotify that actually about half of you aren't subscribed to the channel. Half of you aren't subscribed. I'd want it to make it a bit more uneven. I'd want it to be like 55% subscribed. So it only takes like one or two of you to actually go down below and click the subscribe button and join the Stay Frosty community. So will you do this for me? Will you do this for me? And if you will, that's great. And enjoy the rest of the podcast. Yeah. Whew, got the heavy one out of the way. Yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal. Anyway, moving on to something nicer now. Yeah, something nicer. The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yes. I think this is probably the best trilogy ever made. It's just so good in every way because it's quite old now. It's got to be like 20-ish years old, and it still looks amazing. It still looks, sounds, and is just generally amazing. It's just so good. Like the scripting is on point. The casting is so on point. Like everyone in the film is just so invested in the storyline. You can tell. And it's just like there's some standout characters. There's some standout actors for me. Right, the standout actors have got to be Sean Bean, Ian McKellen, King Theoden, don't know his name, don't know the actor's name. Maybe even Denethor, to be honest. Denethor's pretty good. Yeah, I'd say those three. Those three, like Sean Bean, Ian McKellen, and King Theoden. And actually, I think Erwin's pretty good. Yeah. They're just so good. The actors that played them, they did such a good job. They did such a good job of acting in that film, in those films. But what I really like about it is that it's just it's so well done. It's so well done. The graphics are so good as well. So, and the thing I like about it the most is that they haven't done what they did in like The Hobbit, where they just use CGI as much as humanly possible. Because I think back then they didn't have as big a budget, and maybe they didn't even have the technology to help them. But it's so much better when they combine graphics with real like props and sets and stuff. It's just so much better. It's so obvious when something's CGI. It's so obvious, and it's not, I don't know. I want to say it's obvious, but for example, when they're going up the mountain and the mountain starts collapsing on them, that looks pretty real. And I'm sure that the snow they're buried under is real, but maybe not the mountain actually collapsing. But it still just looks incredible. It looks so realistic, and it's great. It really just, if you get invested in the trilogy, then you'll end up like me at the end of the film. When I watched the first two on Friday evening. Got to about midnight, couldn't really get through the whole thing, so went to the next day in the morning. I watched Return of the King. And by the end of it, I was just in tears. Literally, I've never watched the trilogy before and been in tears at the end of it, but this time it just got me. Like it probably the waterworks probably started when did I think I shed a first tear? Yes, I think the first tear was shed when the Rohirrim. The Ride of Rohirrim happened. When they back up Gondor, that was it. That really just absolutely started me. It got me going. I was just like, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. It's so it's so dramatic. It's so I don't know how to I don't know how to put it, but it's just so that moment is just so like raised goosebumps, and then it was like in my head I was thinking, that they've tried the characters have tried so hard to get here. Now they're finally backing up Gondor. They're backing up their people, and they're fighting off all the evil in the world, and they're putting their lives at stake. And then they're charging at spearmen on horseback. I mean, that's not a very good idea, but they make it look like a good idea because maybe there's just so many of the horses it doesn't even matter. Um, but you know, and then later on, I was in tears um, when he if they finally finish and they're on the side of this volcano together, and Frodo, and then when he's saying like, oh. Rosie, it would have been her. It would have been her. Oh, it really got me. I was like, oh, no, like imagine being him, like at the ends of the earth, you're dying, you're literally almost dead, and you're like, oh, I wish I had that girl back home, and it's like just I was gonna say it reminds me of me in a way, So many times I've wanted something, right? I've wanted something so bad and been disappointed, and then grown a bit bitter, and then got over it and tried again and been disappointed and been better. And then it's just the vicious cycle. It's the vicious cycle of wanting things. Honestly, I think your parents are probably right when they should really emphasize when you're younger that you can't always have what you want. You can't always get what you want, but I don't know. You could damn well try. Uh, it's so brutal. I mean, brutal. It's not brutal. I've used brutal too many times in this podcast. It's not brutal. It's just realistic. It's just sad. Sad that you can actually want so many things in life, in general. Like it's just sad because you could you can want so many different things. Like it could be physical. It could be like a new TV. It could be something for the kitchen. It could be a pot pan. It could be a new car. It could be a flat. It could be a house. There's so many things you could want. It could be a girlfriend or boyfriend or like kids or something. There's just so many things that you can want in life, but you can't always get what you want, which is sad. It's just tragic, but and sometimes the the thing you want is really serious. Sometimes it's really, like kids, for example. Some people can't have kids, and it is tragic because the same saying applies to that as to small little things like a friggin' special cable converter or something. Some petty thing like that. And you think, oh well, life's not fair. Like, I didn't roll the dice properly. The dice didn't roll in my favor because Jimmy over there, he's got a lovely wife and a house. He's got a beautiful house, lovely wife. But then he can't have kids. And then look at me, I'm Joe Bob. Joe Bob got a crappy flat. I've got like 6 kids. So I don't know who, but they really want kids. Jimmy and his wife really want kids, but they can't have them. Yeah, they can't have them. It's physically impossible. Like one of them's can't. I can't think of the word right now, but when you can't have kids, you just can't have kids. So they've wanted kids their whole life, but they can't get it. They've got this lovely house. They've got this lovely, like they've got everything you'd want, like a beautiful car, like lovely jobs and great cars and stuff, but they can't have kids. And they want them so bad, but they can't have them. And then Joe Bob, It's got everything else. He wants everything they've got, but he can't have it because I don't know. He's just not smart. He's not a smart guy, so he's not. He's employed as like a groundskeeper. He's employed as a groundskeeper, and he's just got loads of kids. He's got like more than 6 kids. He's got 7 kids now. He's got one just popped out. You know, he's just got he's inundated with kids. So I think basically what I'm trying to get to here, allude to, is count your blessings. Yeah, count your blessings, because it's not possible for everyone to have everything they want. It's just not possible. And if it is possible, then I feel like you're not gonna have very good luck. You're not gonna be able to. You're not gonna have very good morals. I think you're just gonna live a poor life, really. Like, if you go around thinking you can get everything you want, you just it's not gonna work well. It's not gonna be a good life for you. It's not. It's not enough realness there. It's not enough raw realness. Yeah, not enough realness. Anyway, I got so sidetracked by that. But Lord of the Rings trilogy, obviously, we're gonna rate things. We rate things out of 5. I didn't actually rate Schindler's List in the end. I was gonna rate it, and then I got distracted by something. So Schindler's List, I'll give it a. Oh, I give it a 4. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I can't give it a 5 out of 5 just because it's so brutal. It's so grim. It's just no. No, I can't hear me. I can't give it a 5 out of 5 because it's on such a horrible topic. I feel like I'd be, I don't know, encouraging. No, don't worry. I won't go. I won't go down that route. But Lord of the Rings trilogy, I think out of 5, 5. It's just a 5, straight 5. It's the best trilogy ever. And then finally, guys, the last thing I'm going to be talking about in this podcast is the Matrix trilogy. Now, this was a random one because basically, to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy properly, I had to get a Now TV subscription, which actually comes with a 7-day trial, which I need to cancel soon, but not yet, but soon. And whilst I was on Now TV, I also saw that they had the Matrix trilogy, and I love the Matrix. I think it's great. It's so much fun. It's so much fun, and it's just great. So I watched it. I watched all 3 films together, back to back. And as I've discussed with many people over the past few days, the first film is so good it could easily just be its own thing. There's no need for it to be a trilogy. Actually, it could just be The Matrix by itself. The ending of The Matrix is enough. Like, honestly, at the end of The Matrix, that's good enough. You can kind of see where it's going from there. But apparently, I'm going to butcher their name now, but the Wachowski brothers, they are the directors of the film, and apparently they had always planned for it to be a trilogy. They'd always planned for it, and apparently Reloaded and Revolutions were filmed simultaneously, and you can really tell that because of the time gap. There's a time gap at the end of the first Matrix compared to the second Matrix. There's a time gap, but between Reloaded and Revolutions, there's no time gap. It's literally continues straight on. So what I thought was interesting is they probably made it a trilogy because they had to make some money. They made to make more money. Really, that's all it is, because those 2 films combined could have quite easily been a whole film, and I would have preferred it like that, solely for the reason that there is not enough in the Matrix kind of action in the Matrix stuff in Revolutions. In Revolutions, it's very much about the in the real world, like the real world versus the robots, basically. It's very much that. There are some bits of it in the Matrix, but it's nowhere near as much as Reloaded. Reloaded is basically the opposite of that. Reloaded is basically all in the Matrix, and everything is in there. And the thing I like about that, I think I love about the stuff that's in the Matrix, is that it's completely unrealistic, and it's so awesome. Like just the crazy fight scenes they have in it, and just there's so much like hand-to-hand combat, and it's just so ridiculous in every way, and it's so good. And I can see why they kind of needed to do this, because they had to make a comparison between the two kind of worlds, to kind of, I don't know, really show what they meant by, I don't know where I was going with that, but basically, Reloaded and Revolutions could have been the same film, and I think it would have been better. I think it would have been better like that. And yeah, it's just a shame they had to make more money and split it into two. But here we are. Also, like, I did actually, this time I did kind of understand the overarching story a bit more, because when I was younger, I didn't really get it. But I kind of understood what they were on about. And I'm not going to lie, that the whole architect bit, that just, even now I understand what he's saying, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make that much sense, because he's trying to suddenly claim that there's multiple versions of the Matrix, and there's always an anomaly being the one that slips through his net, and he can't get rid of the anomaly being Neo. And apparently he's come to his like office many times, and every time he can't save humanity, it's all over. Basically, that's basically what he's saying. But the one bit which doesn't make sense at all, and that all kind of makes sense in the story, but what doesn't make sense at all is when he says, we've beaten humanity before. We've beaten it. Every time it happens, we've done it. It doesn't make any sense, because beating humanity isn't in the Matrix. It's nothing to do with the Matrix. It's outside of the Matrix. It's in the real world. So how can they have beaten humanity 6 times already? Surely when you wipe them out there once, they're gone. Like, they're not going to come back. Like, how would that work? How would that friggin' work? Unless what he meant was they wiped out all of human. Because there are some people that are born outside the Matrix. Oh, actually, I guess that could work, actually. Because I guess you wipe them out the first time, they make like a new version of the Matrix, and then it all starts from wherever the Matrix starts, it starts again. And then the same characters slip through into the outside worlds as themselves, and then maybe they make children, and blah blah blah, so on and so forth, and eventually it gets to Neo again. Maybe that's it. Actually, maybe I've just explained it. Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess that's it. I guess that's what they're trying to say, and that makes sense. It ties up with the end of the story, because at the end of the story, humans have won, but the Matrix still exists, and the architect promises that this peace will last for a certain amount of time, but not forever. So he's probably just going to make another version of the Matrix and try his damnedest to keep Neo from taking the red pill or something, basically. I think that's generally it. So it's kind of sad, because humans will never win. And I think that's what the film is trying to, I think that's what the trilogy is trying to say. Like, the first film is giving you so much hope, but I think the last two films, I think the whole trilogy is meant to just give you zero hope, in the fact that once like there's such a thing as strong AI and machines that govern the world, it's all over. You don't stand a chance. so yeah. Fair enough. Out of five, I would probably give it a. I gave Schindler's List a 4. Lord of the Rings 5. Matrix, I want to give it a 4. To be fair, I do want to give it a 4 because it's so original as well. Yeah, it's so original. Yeah. So Gonna wrap that up, guys. Thanks for joining me on this particular episode. And yeah. In the meantime, guys, yeah, stay frosty. I don't know if that wink really worked, but